Murder Jones combines a mystery show with crime fighting that presents an intriguing take on both genres, providing this wacky, fun, interesting story that takes place in a post-apocalyptic environment. While it does have some pros, like the character developments for N, V, and Uzi, it does have a lot of cons. Like, some characters just feel like that they exist in the story and don't really mean a lot towards the plot, and the plot and storytelling can be very difficult to understand for first-time watchers. Hello my ninjas, welcome back. Today I'll be doing a series review on Murder Jones. Now, you might be questioning why there's an asterisk in the thumbnail of this video. That is because the final few episodes of Murder Jones has not released yet, and the latest episode that was released, which was episode 7, Mass Destruction, released 5 weeks ago. It is safe to say we aren't going to get the final few episodes until at least the fall of this year, or potentially maybe in 2025. For now, you get to watch this series review with the asterisks, of course. Once the final few episodes for Season 1 or the series releases, I'll come back and give an update on my overall thoughts on the show. As usual, I will be going over my likes, my dislikes, my favorite moments, and what I hope can be fixed in the final few episodes to up my rating on this. That is also the reason why I have an asterisk on the thumbnail, because once the final few episodes for the season or series of Murder Jones, I will come back to this and I'll update my rating or lower it depending on how the last few episodes shape out. Finally, I'm going to have special guest Frank, who you have known for my podcast episodes, talk about his pros and cons, as well as his overall thoughts on the show. His Twitter link will be in the description below. Before we begin, I want to give credit to Glitch Productions for creating this show and producing the episodes that I will be using in this video. Their Twitter and YouTube link will be in the top of the description. Alright, let's enter the dangerous, viciously world of Murder Jones. Our first section we will be going over is the plot. The one issue that this show has compared to other indie shows I have watched recently is the plot. It becomes a problem if you need to watch the series 2 to 3 times over just to understand it. To explain the plot without confusing you, we have 2 factions. The first faction is the worker drones. They are there to exist, to work, to go to school, and make doors. I don't know, ask Glitch Productions why the fuck they make doors. Or ask Uzi's dad. The other faction is the murder drones, which go out, kill the worker drones, and drink their fucking oil to not overheat. Are you still with me? Because we're not done yet with the plot. We still got a lot more to go. Later on in the series, we find out that these factions mean jack shit. And it's just this one person named Sin that wants to take over the world and can overtake people with a silver. We then go in this crazy chase scene from episode 5 to 7 to find a way to stop Sin by going through the memories of V and N in episode 5, Home. Tessa actually becoming Sin later on in episode 6 and 7. Sin controlling Uzi when she uses the silver. The plot in the series is just all over the place. Let's play comparison with a show named Hazbin Hotel. Calm the fuck down, I'm not going to compare which plot's better than the other, I'm talking about simplicity here. Hazbin Hotel created a simple, easy to understandable plot. We have Charlie Morningstar, who is the princess of hell and believes that the people in hell deserves a second chance to get into heaven. So she goes up to Adam in the first episode to present the idea and gets rejected from the song Hell is Forever. So she then goes on this adventure to recruit people that also believes in her idea. They then get to heaven in episode 6 with the help of Charlie's father named Lucifer to the court hearing, in which she almost won, but due to Adam and Luke interfering, it causes them to protect their hotel in episode 8 with the extermination. See how simple that was to explain compared to Murder Jones? The point I'm trying to make here is, for people that like to watch shows one time over, like myself, it's difficult to understand the plot and storytelling compared to others that have watched this 2, maybe even 4 times over, where they have understood the plot, they understand the storytelling, and think much more highly regards towards what one-time watchers will. Now, of course, there is a debate that is, if you watch it a second time, it gets better. Not always. Not always, alright? I'm a one-time watcher because, personally for me, I think there isn't really a need to watch it a second time over, unless if I really enjoy it. Like in these cases, like Ninjago, I've watched a good amount of times over. I think I've at least watched all 7 seasons twice, maybe even 3 times, and Total Drama 2. I've at least watched most seasons at least 4 to 5 times over, because I think they're really polished, well-designed, well-crafted, and beautifully amazing shows that I love watching over and over again. They will never get boring. However, compared to Murder Drones here, it feels difficult trying to understand what's going on throughout each thing, which then forces me to start getting a little more farther behind. It feels confusing. It makes my ratings drop. Now, obviously, I did have Frank, who will be shown later on. He was with me answering some stuff, and I obviously had to watch it a second time over. So now we have a refresher, since I was watching Digital Circus, Ramshackle. I was watching a lot of stuff in between, just so I had a refresher. But the fact that the plot was like this confusing makes it a big issue for myself, as well as having to watch it a second time just to understand the plot and storytelling a little bit more knocks down a lot of points on my ratings ladder. Due to the plot being very confusing, it becomes an issue for first-time watchers having to not understood the plot, regard it as lower ratings compared to people that have watched it 3 to 5 times over, giving it higher regards for understanding the plot and storytelling. Some people don't have the time or just don't want to watch it 2+ times over just to understand something. If it cannot be understood simply through one time, that becomes a big issue in shows, and this is one of them. The point I'm saying here is the simplicity of Hazbin Hotel's plot was much more easy and understandable to go through, understanding throughout each episode for first-time watchers and maybe even extra, compared to Murder Drones, where you are forced to watch it at least 2, maybe even 3 times over just to understand what the fuck is going on. Plot was difficult to understand, but to the contrary, characters were good. I say good because to me, some characters felt like they just existed in the show and had no tie-ins with the plot. 2 examples of this is Doll and Uzi's dad. It just felt like that they existed with no meaning towards the story. Dad had plot armor and was there to simply just exist. It's a pretty anticlimactic character, where his main goal is to reunite his trust with Uzi. Can't be doing that after you leave her almost dying from the murder drones in the pilot. Due to this, the dad tries everything he can to fix his relationship with Uzi, like setting up Lizzie and Doll to dress up Uzi for the prompting, which inadvertently causes the prompting episode to exist in the first place. It is my favorite episode, though. The dad is there to exist and attempt to fix a relationship that was one long lost due to the one regretful mistake he had by dipping the fuck out when Uzi needed him the most. As for Doll just pops out every now and then. I don't get what her purpose is. Like, it is sort of explained at the end of episode 5, where Doll meets up with the supposed Tessa and newly formed Jay. But for what reason? What was the deal? It never gets mentioned again after that. Why does Doll have the solver? Why is she trying to kill V? What is the reason that Sin cannot overtake Doll? What's the reason? Was that deal supposed to be something that we should have known way more earlier? How does Doll convince Lizzie to get V in the right spot for Doll to kill her in the prompting? What goes on with their character? It's so mysterious, I don't get it. You can have a mysterious character in a show. You have to explain it a little bit more, though. Because it's just never mentioned in the second half. What the fuck happens with her? She just pops in every now and then trying to stop Uzi with the solver. And then she kapoofs be gone. What the fuck is going on? Doll and Uzi's dad felt like, to me, just 2 characters that were there to exist and had no tie-ins with the plot and the storytelling. The tier above Uzi's dad and Doll is Jay. Now, Jay had a lot more meaning in the pilot compared to all the other episodes. Because Jay was this leader, the big boss girl. She was there as the leader of the murder drones and basically just co-piloted everything, made sure everything was in check. She can kick people out, she cannot. She looked like a great character. But then decided, let's throw her into the recycling bin. Because all he did after she got killed by Newsy in the warehouse, in the pilot. She then proceeded to get rebuilt by Sin. She works for Sin, but she does nothing else. She never does anything else besides the pilot. What the fuck happened to her? She's not involved in anything besides the pilot, and we only see the process of her being rebuilt in episodes 2 and 3. What the fuck? The next one above would be Tessa. Now, we know Tessa watches over NV and Sin in episode 5 Home, since we see Tessa being with them in the mansion way before this entire apocalyptic world began. Prior to the events of the show, Sin was actually normal. Until she wanted to take over everything and kill Tessa in that episode to manipulate the others in episode 6 to 7. That Sin was Tessa in the spacesuit. Tessa's purpose in episode 5 explains how Sin became evil, and Tessa helping the drones and supporting them overall. So we know that Tessa was good friends with N and V, as well as Sin, and very close with them. However, for her purpose, just for that episode, it was overall fine. Let's go to the next tier above. Let's talk about the good characters. Starting off quickly with the Cardmen! Nothing else to say, they're the best characters in the show. Throw it at me! Alright. Let's actually talk about characters. V was one of the more better characters in this show. She provided the funny moments we need in this show. She provided great dialogue. She provided an intriguing character development throughout the show. Seeing her develop from going from the merge on faction to being part of a team was so unique and fascinating. Seeing that progression of development of V was shown fantastically in the show. There is one issue I have that does not bring her to the level with Newsy. And that was, she had the most unnecessary sacrifice that I've ever seen in all of television. All V had to do in episode 6 was pew pew that elevator line, then quickly hop into the elevator with the group. I do not understand why that was needed. To me, it doesn't make sense. It didn't feel sad. It didn't feel emotional. It just felt like a sour warhead that was left on the table for days, and you consumed it because why not? You wanted to. Why not? I will never understand the reasoning for that sacrifice, and it will leave me with that sour feeling that her sacrifice was never needed. Or if you were going to sacrifice her, you could have had a way more better development. And also, I think she could have had more development after episode 6. I think even without a sacrifice, you could have definitely added way more development for her. I think she was doing great. As for my favorite moments of V, I really loved the blowing bubbles scene in episodes 2 and 3. I think that was really hilarious. Funny interactions between N and V as well as Uzi, just casually blowing bubbles. However, she did lick the bubbles. I don't know what to say about that. She licks bubbles. I mean, hey, good for her. Good for her. If she enjoys it, please go right ahead. Be my guest. But I will never be doing that. We had enough talk with V. Let's go talk about the main protagonist, Newsy. Yes, I'm calling him Newsy. You got a problem with that? No? Okay, good. Uzi is the main character in the show. She does a great job. We see her expressions a lot in the show. The Solver overtakes her many times. We see her emotions a lot. We see it a lot, especially with the Solver. Just wanting to know why she has this, why it overtakes her, and why can it control her if she was to use the Solver. Well, we find out later that Sin can overtake anyone who uses it besides Doll, which I've already said earlier. Why? We see later on in the show, aka the later episodes, that she starts, like, the 5 stages of grief. We see this a lot, where all she wants to know is why she has the Solver, and why she can get possessed by Sin if she wants to use it. I think her development was good. She showed emotion, she showed grief, she showed progression as the character was polished, executed, and developed greatly. Now, would I say Uzi's the best character in the show? As of right now, I'm not sure. There is the reason why I have the asterisks. Pushing away the Cardman actual talks, actually, I think Uzi's development between her and the Solver, as well as N, felt rushed at times. Obviously, she takes most of the screen time, but maybe too much, because, to me, only N, V, and Uzi really were the best characters in the show. You could have definitely had Jay have more development. You could have had Sin give more development. Jay really didn't have a backstory. I mean, I get that the mansion was there, but, like, you can show a little bit more of her besides 3 episodes, please. For example, in Cabin Fever, we mostly see Uzi. We rarely see the classmates at the cabins interacting with N and V. We rarely see any of that, because then later, N and V just go over to Uzi and decide to help her with the solver issue, and she's overheating. All we mostly see of that episode is the solver with Uzi and maybe Doll every now and then. The last character I did not mention is N. N provides that wacky character we need in these types of shows. The wacky, the funny, the less serious type of character in these type of crime-fighting, mysterious shows. Where he first is a murder drone that then malfunctions. And when she mentions in the pilot, he got a crush on V. However, he then becomes closer with Uzi, which then we get to the end section of the plot where one person needs to save the other, and then we go into the cycle over and over again. We see it every time in every show. N's character development is polished actually very well. The emotions were shown, the feelings were shown in a great way. Towards Uzi, of course. N was always there for Uzi, now it's presented greatly in the show. For what the characters provided in the show, there was well-designed ones, like V, N, and Uzi, whereas other characters like Jay, Tessa, Uzi's dad, and Doll was just there to exist, and didn't really have a lot of tie-in towards the plot. I think, personally, those 4 characters I mentioned, maybe even Sin as well, I think Sin's like in the center. You could have had more episodes where you explain their backstory, explain their development, explain why they are here, why they're on that side. We don't know why N and J are on the murder drone side. What's the reason? They've never told us. And don't say the mansion explains it, because that does jack shit. That mansion episode told us nothing besides what they originally did before becoming murder drones. But how did they get to murder drones? How did they get to the faction? They do not tell us at all. I had enough talk about this. I've talked way too much now. Let me take a little break. Let me go send it over to my boy Frank, and he will explain his thoughts on the show. Take it away, my good friend.
Alright, I've watched this show like 3 or 4 times over. I'm not addicted, I'm just dedicated, okay? Anyway, Dylan has some cons about it that I think the same thing, but a little too extreme about it. I'll say them anyway, so here you go. So the show's a little confusing. Understanding what's going on in the show on the first watch is harder than Michael Jackson around at elementary school. At the first watch, I was confused about what the solver was and how Uzi just has it now. Same with the whole, is it really Tesla in a spacesuit thing? That was really confusing to me. But other than a couple things being confusing, I think the show's really solid. I know a complaint Dylan had was about the plot, which he found a little confusing, which is fair. But I think he could be a little less harsh on it. But I'll stop blabbering about the cons and get to why I fell in love with the show. For starters, the animation's just crazy in the show. Like, there's the scene with N shooting a rocket into the warehouse, revealing Sin. And there's also the knife catch dancing scene in the prom episode. And then even just the shot of Uzi drifting around in space at the end of the last episode. There are all these crazy shots. Another thing I really like about this show is just the little gags they throw into the background. Like, a lot of them are in the camping episode with the bus acting kind of like a horse from making it, and just casually making love with the order in the calendar. That was pretty funny. Last thing I'll really say is that they did a really good job of conveying emotions to these robots. Like, with their eyes, how, like, for an example, just N in episode 6, where you can tell how, like, visually upset he is about the situation with Uzi. Like, they just did a really good job conveying emotions. Alright, I know I already said last thing, but this is for the last thing. You sick fucks need to stop making murder drones, Paul.
Clearly has not watched enough shows to see a lot of corn all over the internet. But, you know, it is what it is. We're not here to talk about that. Let's talk briefly about the visuals and the environment. The visuals are fantastic. Slow motion effects, the awesome still shots with the blast of the weapons, it all felt smooth. never felt awkward between the scenes. It felt smooth throughout the series. The one part of the show that does not get enough credit, is the dynamic diagonal shots. I have hardly seen any show use the dynamic diagonal shots. I've hardly seen them, and they used it beautifully in the show. It is so well done. I don't understand why not a lot of shows use it. They should be using it more, and this show does it perfectly. As for the environment, it presented the post-apocalyptic feeling that this show has going with, providing more connection to the show and the viewer itself. The visuals and environment beautifully crafted this post-apocalyptic theme that perfectly fits the show, as well as the vibes that it gives off, presenting a more fun, casually, and crafty show that everyone can enjoy. If the plot was an issue to understand, that must mean the storytelling should be an issue, right? My friend Johnny, that's not exactly how it works. If the plot was already confusing for the first time, and for first-time watchers to understand, that's going to take a toll on the story aspect. This show had two stories. I mean, you could say it has multiple, but it really had two main stories. You had the worker drone Uzi wanting to fight back against the mer drones in the pilot, and the first few episodes, you could say. Then they completely throw that at the end of the recycling bin, to then shift it to an insane, ambitious person named Sin that just wants to take over the world, and now it's two combined factions taking down one person. The story is basic, something that can be good in certain scenarios, but not when the plot is that difficult to understand. In terms of basics in this show, it was the utmost importance. If it was that difficult to see the plot, then the story had to be simple. Which it was. Uzi wants to fight against the mer drones, in which then multiple of them join her side, take down Sin, and now she's floating in space for now a year? I mean, there's nothing crazy to say here. As for the characters, I think Uzi did it best. We see her struggles as the show progresses. But it could have been better personally for me. She took the solver, and now she has grief because she wants to know why she cannot control it, nor use it, which over time becomes repetitive. We clearly hear them later on in the show to not use the solver, in which Uzi then proceeds to use it later, losing her mind in the process. There's nothing to say here. We needed an episode where it would have explained the solver and its purpose besides Sin being able to control anyone who uses it. But no, because instead Doll can just use it with her mind powers. I don't know. Uzi finds something on the ground. She begins to use it. And now Sin can possess people? We never get an explanation in the show as to how Sin can possess anyone who uses the solver. Other characters like Uzi's dad and N has fine storytelling, but not in a good way. We can see that N starts to like Uzi and starts to get closer with her, which I like how that progressed. I think they did a pretty good job of it. But besides that, was there really anything else? Alright, fair, you could say that N protects Uzi with his life, but be honest with me, is that really storytelling? Or is that just what the usual show does for lovebirds? Answer that for me. Anyways, Uzi's dad's a typical fragmented relationship character that his entire goal is to build fucking doors for some reason and attempt to fix a relationship with Uzi that you already broke in the pilot. Good luck trying to fix that, okay? The storytelling was lacking in many parts of the show due to the plot being very conveyed and very difficult to understand for first-time watchers, having you watch it a second, a third time over just to understand the story and the plot. There was some shining moments though, like V's development and N's development towards being with Uzi. The final section here is the soundtrack and funny moments. Was good overall. Felt like we were in a post-apocalyptic environment, like I said before. Being presented beautifully with the soundtrack. The tense, the jaw-dropping background sounds. They made it more eerie, mysterious, and more of what this show was going for. As for humor, it was good. The background jokes were hilarious. From National Day, dog photos, the pilot having the 3 steps not to be a dumbass. That was funny. And what this show needed. Because all the episodes got their own wacky, funny, humor jokes that made me laugh throughout the show. You don't need characters to always make the humor work. Now, yes, it is better, and I do think it is better. But in this case, in this scenario, it worked out great! For what the funny moments had in the soundtrack, it made a more serious crime fighting genre combined with mysterious, a little more less serious and more funny with the background stuff that I mentioned before. Overall, Mer Drones provided a fun, wacky adventure of drones finding a way around the planet, surviving by killing other drones to drink their oil, to then go on this adventure to stop sin with flashbacks, development, expressions, and visuals. While there are pros, there are a lot of cons about this show that I hope will be fixed in the final few episodes. In terms of rating, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It could be an 8 if I hear the right argument and the right reasoning, with the asterisks, of course, because if the final episodes are good and fix the issues I've said in the series review video, they can go as high as a 9 out of 10. In certain scenarios, of course. If the issues are still present in the final few episodes that I mentioned in this video, then this will go down to a 6, maybe a 5 if you give me a good valid case towards that rating, since the plot is one of the most important things, and it lacks the plot and storytelling too. Felt like they were just running around at times doing chores, like escaping from velociraptors? When the fuck did the velociraptors get here? Excuse me, what? This show provides a fun, wacky adventure that you can sit down with your friends and have a good time while having some issues that can definitely be patched up in the final few episodes once they release. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, share this video to your friends so that they can subscribe to me and enjoy my videos. Hit that little bell so you get notified for when I upload. Shout out to Frank for collabing with me on this video. His Twitter link will be in the description. He does SFM work, and he also has made some of my thumbnails for me, so go check out his stuff. All credit goes to the Glitch Productions for making this good, fun show that we can all enjoy. Their Twitter and YouTube links will be in the top of the description. All episodes used in this video, as well as the soundtrack, will also be in the top of the description. All my socials will be under my channel description. And lastly, my next video will be talking about the Ramshackle pilot and what a series could look like, because I do believe it has potential. Within a week, it should be uploaded. I hope so. Thank you all for watching. This is Ninja Dill signing out.